Let's talk about something we all know, that feeling of being plugged into a constant, nonstop fire hose of information. You've got notifications, news feeds, endless scrolls. It feels like we're always on, always consuming. But what is all of this actually doing to our brains? So, this is the big question, right? Are we all drowning in information? I mean, for years we've heard about information overload, this idea that we're all just barely keeping our heads above water. You'd think the internet would have just made it a million times worse. But what if the story we've been telling ourselves about this isn't quite right? Okay, check this out. A major study by the Pew Research Center found that this is the actual number of Americans who say they feel overloaded by information. Just 20%. I don't know about you, but that number seems way lower than I would have guessed. It's even gone down in the last decade. So, what is actually going on here? And here is where it gets really weird. This is the paradox. While only a fifth of us feel overloaded, a huge majority, 2/3 of us, say that having more information actually simplifies their lives. How can both of those things be true? Well, it tells us the problem isn't just the sheer amount of information. It's something way more subtle. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to unpack that overload paradox. Then we'll get into the tricks the attention economy uses to keep us hooked. After that, we'll talk about the antidote, the power of intentionality. Then we'll give you a practical toolkit, and we'll wrap up with a really powerful idea, the shift from just consuming to actually creating. All right, so if most of us aren't chronically overloaded, what's that stress we sometimes feel? Well, the research points to it being situational. It's not a constant state. Think about when you have to deal with a mountain of paperwork from your bank to get a loan or wade through a university's complex website. That's where the real information burden kicks in for people. And this, right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the matter. The problem isn't that we're drowning. It's that we're suffering from a kind of mental malnutrition. The issue isn't the quantity of information. It's the quality. It's the fact that so much of what we consume is engineered to be unfulfilling and, honestly, manipulative. So, if this constant distraction isn't really our fault, then what is it? Well, it's the result of a multi-trillion-dollar system that's been built from the ground up to capture and sell our most valuable resource, our attention. Feeling distracted isn't a personal failing. It is the system working exactly as designed. To really get how this works, you have to understand a concept from biology called supernormal stimuli. A scientist found that a bird would rather sit on a giant, brightly colored fake egg than its own real, smaller eggs. The fake one was an exaggerated version of the real thing, and it hijacked the bird's instincts. Well, that's exactly what a lot of digital content does to us. It hijacks our ancient instincts for novelty and social connection. This leads to a fantastic metaphor. Think about our information diet the same way you think about your food diet. So much of what we consume online is basically digital junk food. It's engineered to taste amazing, to be hyper-palatable. But at the end of the day, it leaves us feeling empty and malnourished. It's designed for engagement, not for our well-being. And there's another sneaky psychological trick they use, called the Diderot effect. It's named after this French philosopher who got a beautiful new robe as a gift. But then, he looked around and all his old furniture suddenly looked cheap and shabby next to it. So he ended up replacing everything in a spiral of consumption. Sound familiar? That's the endless scroll. One video leads to the next, one article to another, and you're trapped in that cascade. So, what's the actual cost of all this distraction? Well, it's not harmless, not at all. Research shows that when we try to multitask with our digital devices, our productivity can plummet by a staggering 40%. It's because of something called cognitive switching costs. Basically, every time you shift your focus, you burn a little bit of mental energy, and it adds up fast. Okay, so that's the problem. It's a system designed to make us reactive. So how do we fight back? The antidote is to become reflective. And that's the whole idea behind intentional living. It's the deliberate choice to align your time and your attention with the things that you actually care about. This is the fundamental mindset shift we have to make. You see, the reactive mind, the one that the attention economy loves, is always asking, how much can I cram into my day? It's driven by dings and notifications. But the intentional mindset asks a much deeper, much more powerful question. What truly deserves my presence? It's about making choices based on your values, not someone else's agenda. And this is so important to understand. Simplifying your schedule, learning to say no, creating some empty space in your day, that's not being lazy. In the world we live in now, it's a critical act of psychological self-preservation. It's how you take back your own mental energy. It's how you find freedom. All right, this all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it look like in real life? How do we actually do this? Well, this next part is all about action. We're going to build your personal toolkit for taking back your focus in a world that wants to steal it. Here are 5 strategies you can start using literally today. First, curate your digital diet. Be as picky about your information as you are about your food. Practice digital minimalism. Use fewer tools, but use them better. Create tech-free zones, like the dinner table or your bedroom. Schedule actual digital detoxes. Put it on your calendar. And finally, rediscover the lost art of single tasking. Just focus on one important thing at a time. It's a superpower. Now here's a really powerful exercise you can try, a time audit. It's simple. For 1 week, just observe where your time and energy are going. Write it down. Then, at the end of the week, analyze it. What activities gave you energy? Which ones just drained you? And then, you act. Be ruthless. Decide what to keep, what you can maybe give to someone else, and what you need to just let go of. And here's that 40% number again, but shown in a way that makes it really clear. When you single task, you're firing on all cylinders, 100%. But the second you start trying to juggle things, your effectiveness just tanks. A distracted mind is an inefficient one. Being intentional is about getting yourself back up to 100%. Okay, this brings us to our final and maybe the most powerful idea of all. Being intentional isn't just about cutting out the bad stuff. It's about what you decide to fill that new space with. It's about making a huge shift from being a passive consumer to an active creator. This quote from James Clear just says it all, doesn't it? Every single minute you spend passively scrolling is a minute you can never get back. A minute you could have spent making something, learning something, or connecting with someone. There's even research showing that people who live the longest, most vibrant lives are the ones who keep contributing to their communities. And look, creating does not have to be some big, intimidating thing. We're not all going to write the next great novel. It can be small, daily acts. Cook a meal from scratch instead of ordering in. Play a board game with your family instead of just watching a show. Little things like that reconnect us with the world and with our own ability to make a mark on it. So, we'll leave you with this one simple question. In all that space you're going to make, by taming the stream, by choosing your focus, by turning down the noise, what will you choose to create? Because the answer to that question, well, that's where a truly focused and meaningful life begins.